Howdy. Welcome back to the top 10 albums of Metallica. Continuing with number 6, we have And Justice for All, released in 1988. Your top tracks are going to be And Justice for All, 1, and To Live Is to Die. So, Justice was my favorite album whenever I was growing up. When I first started getting into Metallica, really loved the complexity and the messages that this album brings. A lot of themes about rebellion, a lot of themes about just what the government is fucking up, a lot of themes about going against war. A lot of these talking points that James Hetfield writes about with these songs, you can easily translate those lyrics for today's world. It's cool for James' perspective because he was so forward thinking, but it's also kind of sucks because this same shit still keeps on happening. I digress. So this album is not perfect, and you know why it's not perfect, but let's go ahead and get into it. My name is TJ Stevens. This is And Justice for All. An important thing to note about this record is that longtime bassist Cliff Burton had passed away 2 years before the making of this record, which gives us new bassist Jason Newsted. Jason Newsted, you can have an own video for Jason just by himself. I love Jason Newsted, everything that he brought to the table with Metallica, especially his backup vocals. You don't hear that on the album. You'll never hear that on the album, but live, the dude was untouchable. But with Jason, and since he was the new bassist, Metallica, they weren't too kind for him. I think that after Cliff died, they probably waited 3 days before they started auditioning for bass players, which just like, what the fuck? Don't do that. But Jason came in a very unfavorable situation with the rest of the guys just hazing him. Whether it's because, they were young and just they needed to get some frustration out because they just lost their best friend or what, completely inexcusable. And one of the hazing rituals that they did was they completely neutered the bass frequencies on this album. Practically non-existent. There's a remastered version on Spotify, but I swear every time I hear it, maybe I just need better headphones, but when I hear this, the bass is still not as audible as I would like it to be. Like, is the remaster in the room with us? Put it back on the shelf. I'm not buying it. So what I like to do is watch this video called And Justice for Jason. I think it's something by Studio, because there's a lot of And Justice for Jason. What it basically is that it takes all the songs from this album and it turns up the bass. Some of them do it way too much, some of them not enough, but look up Brain Rock Studio and Justice for Jason and you'll see what this album could have been. And honestly, had that been the case, had this album been like that from the start, we're easily talking top 3, guaranteed top 4 albums for this band. But as it stands, how it was released, I just gotta go with what we got sonic-wise. Or sonically. Sonic-wise, yeah, fucking hedgehog. So, with that being said, what does Jason do on his first day? He helps write our opener, Blackened. Holy shit, what a way to kick things off. So, Blackened is a great opener. It could be heavily argued that it's their best opener, but there's a lot of contention for that. We'll get to that. But Blackened is one of their hardest songs, one of their most intricate. It's a bitch to play on the drums. It's a even bigger bitch to play on guitar. It's so challenging. It's about the earth like just blowing up on all this fire and smoke, and the ash leaves the world blackened pretty much. So after that, we have And Justice for All, the title track, coming in at a whopping 9 minutes, 46 seconds. Not even the longest song on this record. So the title track, the opening riff, the opening clean guitar riff it's beautiful. It's very beautiful. One of my favorite riffs to play, just doodling with a guitar in my free time. The themes has to do with Lady Liberty, Lady Justice, I think it is, one of those two. But, the cover art that you see right in front of you, how she's just being, gagged and bound by these ropes, and you see the scales of justice tipping over, and like nothing's equal, everything's unfair, this shit sucks. And in the chorus, whenever James says justice is lost, justice is raped, justice is done, I mean, that says it pretty much right there. Not much more I can add to that. Funny enough, Kirk Hammett has a writing credit on this song, which I think it's weird that they do that with Kirk Hammett on Wikipedia, because he writes his own solos, right? That's a writing credit now. I guess they just mean for the overall structure of the song. I don't know. But in Justice for All, it's a long track. It's worth every second, though. Then you got Eye of the Beholder. This album is a damn near perfect no-skip album if it wasn't for Eye of the Beholder. I like Eye of the Beholder. I can rock with it. I just don't care much for it. I like the drums. I like the rhythm, just with the guitars and how the vocals fit into that. But I'm not dying to hear it. I'm not dying to hear it like I would die to hear it in Justice for All. Something like that. But speaking of dying to hear, after that we have the fourth track, One. What can I say about One? I believe this was their first music video ever, and ever since then, apparently Metallica are sellouts because they do music videos, because they hadn't done one for 4 years or 3, 4, 5 years before that. But they do one video, they're sellouts. It's just how it is. One is probably a perfect song, if I'm being honest. I mean, you have your clean parts, you have beauty, then you have those hard rock parts, you have that aggression and the progression, just how the song makeup of itself, the sextuplets, those parts. Just, we're talking about stuff that people are still using today. Those rhythms are still being used today. They might have been used before. I want to say that I listened to one song that had those kind of sextuplets type things, but nothing on this scale. I mean, we're talking like just revolutionizing music and how we're approaching it, even 30, 40 years later. It's amazing. It's a great song. Also, speaking of solos, the solo on One, probably my favorite solo ever. I would say it's the best solo, but I would have to listen to all solos. But as it stands right now, just off the dome, One has my favorite solo of all time. Props to Mr. Kirk Hammett for that one. After that, we have Shortest Straw. I fuck with Shortest Straw. I fuck with Shortest Straw a lot. And let's combine that with Harvester of Sorrow, because they kind of accomplish the same goal for me. One is fast and dark, and one is slow and dark. I love the just overall atmosphere that Harvester of Sorrow brings with that clean guitar that's mixed in with the distortion. I believe it's about like domestic violence or something like that, drug abuse. This is a very dark album when it comes to the themes of these songs. I believe that's why I resonate with it so much, or at least back whenever I was an angsty kid. But Shortest Straw is cool. I love the drums. There's a funny YouTube video you gotta look up about Lars trying to relearn this song while they were doing Guitar Hero Metallica. He couldn't fucking do it. And even when he finally got it down, he still half-assed it. Lars Ulrich, please, never change. Never change. So, Shortest Straw, Harvester of Sorrow, they accomplish the same goal, and it's really cool that they're back-to-back with each other, because they do a lot for me very similarly. With Harvester of Sorrow, there's a part like right after the solo or the breakdown where it stops, and then James comes in with the vocals first, and then the song kicks in, and I like that. I like that a lot. They extend that whenever they play it live, and it's fucking cool. All right. After that, we had the Frayed Ends of Sanity. Believe it or not, it took them like 25 years to play this song live for good reason. It's probably like, as terms of just learning a song and having to play the motherfucker, this is the hardest song, with that type of, with those type of rules. Blackened is fast, and it just kicks your ass, but the Frayed Ends of Sanity, it kicks your ass, but it makes you think about the ass kicking that's happening to you. It's just like, why does this hurt so much? It hurts your brain, and it hurts your stamina. I love this song. I love this song, and it's just about this guy just going and say the Frayed Ends of Sanity, like right before you go crazy. Old habits reappear, fighting the fear of fear. Those lyrics just always stayed in my head, and I like it, and at the same time, it makes me kind of afraid to talk about that, to think about those type of things. It's just a fantastic song. So check that out. Honestly, whenever I was doing the top tracks, you can put any of these songs, minus "Eye of the Beholder" for me, personally. You can put any of these tracks for top three, but the ones that I picked, especially the one that we're going to talk about next, at least the one that comes up next, I'm going to say that for last. We're going to talk about that last. But so for right now, we're going to talk about our closer, Dyer's Eve. Dyer's Eve is a great closer. It's kind of a mimic on Damage Inc., how that one closed for another album that we will talk about later. Spoilers. But the Dyer's Eve, it's Blackened. I keep on going back to Blackened because it's so fast and it's the first thing that you hear. But then you get to Dyer's Eve, and what you thought was fast before, it amplifies that. Speaking on the drums specifically, because during the verses, Lars is pretty much doing double bass the entire time. That's why Lars is so fucking polarizing, because you see him play these days, or like the past 20 years, he kind of adopted this style and never grew out of it. And you're just like, wow, he has to be the worst drummer in the world. And then you hear this fucking album, and it's like, there's no way. There was a point in time, whether it was 1988 or 1989, for a very short span, but it still happened. Lars Ulrich was the best drummer in the world. I believe that wholeheartedly. This album is proof of that, because he really locked in and studied his craft and wanted to just shove it in everybody's face. And Dyer's Eve is just, all right, I'm just going to keep on going. I'm not going to stop. Quit running type shit. But Dyer's Eve is, man. And if that wasn't enough, just the lyrics of the song is great too. I'm going to keep on talking about the lyrics with this album, how they resonate. Clip my wings before I learned to fly. Unspoiled, unbroken. I've outgrown that fucking lullaby. James doesn't cuss a lot in his songs, studio-wise. He cusses like a gosh darn sailor live, but studio, he's very, reserved when it comes to cussing. And I love that about him, because whenever you do hear a fuck, a shit, a bitch, or something like that, it resonates more. That's how cuss words are supposed to be used, to really enhance a motherfucking sentence, See how it wasn't the same when I just said it right now? Because I like to cuss. But with James, whenever he took his pen seriously, it just never was a thing that he did often. So I really like it that he brought it out on this song, and it resonated with me. So that was our closer, Dyer's Eve. Great way to close out the album. Our penultimate track is our instrumental. Metallica, not so much these days, but way back, when they first started, they loved to put an instrumental on their albums, and this is the instrumental for "Injustice for All." To Live Is to Die. If I made a top 10 Metallica songs, this is top 2, top 3, guaranteed. I love this song. It's technically not an instrumental. You hear some lyrics, or spoken word, I should say, during I don't even know which parts, because this is such a this is a loaded song, man. Oh my goodness. Just the way it starts with that beautiful acoustic guitar, and then it kicks in with that crunch, with that distortion, just masterfully done. Absolutely masterfully done. And it was actually the last song, or one of the last songs, that Cliff Burton was working on before he sadly passed. Metallica took that and they ran with it, and I could not be more happier with the result. I want to say around the 4 or 5 minute mark. I can't remember exactly, but the entire thing just builds and builds and builds. You get all this heaviness, and then it just drops and it stops, and you get the most beautiful guitar line just like ever. And then you have these soothing, it sounds like strings. I'm pretty sure it's just guitar, and they're like having a delay effect or something. My word, is that one of my favorite guitar pieces of all time. It used to be my ringtone for the longest time, and I had to take it off because it was ruining it. I heard it every single time I heard a phone call. And back in the day, I got like a whole bunch of robocalls. It was a big deal. But it still doesn't diminish anything. I freaking love that part. And I mentioned earlier how this technically isn't an instrumental. It's an instrumental. Come on. It's a fucking instrumental. But it's not an instrumental technically, because we do have spoken word that Cliff wrote that James is, I think it's James, it could be somebody else, but I'm pretty sure it's James. James is speaking, and it goes as follows. When a man lies, he murders some part of the world. These are the pale deaths which men miscall their lives. All this I cannot bear to witness any longer. Cannot this kingdom of salvation take me home? Profound words. Profound words, especially, especially when you consider those were some of the final words that he wrote down on a piece of paper. And I can't say enough good things about To Live Today. Honestly, I can make a whole 10-minute video just dissecting this song alone, but easily my favorite instrumental from Metallica and one of my top favorite songs. I can't say enough about it. So that was And Justice for All, a very complicated album, a very, there's a lot of potential with this album. I love the skeleton of this record. I love the makeup of the songs, but sonically, production-wise, still missing a lot of meat for the bones of this skeleton. Doesn't take away from it too much, because I still adore this record a lot, and especially some select songs I adored like to my heart, but it's always going to be the case of what could have been. And had Cliff not passed, or had James, Lars, and Kirk, mainly just James and Lars, because they were head of production, had they just had a clearer mind, or just fucking respected their bandmate at the time, not too hard to do that, I think this could have been so much better. But as it stands, still a great album. And let me know where it would place on your list. Would it be higher, lower, or would you take it off entirely? As always, let me know down below, and stay tuned.